Long before the mountains burned, before humans and orcs called each other enemies, there was a peace that was never meant to be broken. It was not a peace written in books. It was not a peace guarded by armies. It was a peace carried in memory. Between the kingdom of men, Albionor, and the kingdom of orcs, Kardum, there was no love. But there was understanding. The mountains belonged to the orcs of Kardum. The plains belonged to the men of Albionor. And between them, silence. A silence that endured for generations. Until one day, someone decided that silence was more dangerous than war. Albiona, the kingdom of men. It grew. It carved cities from stone. It drove roads through open plains. It raised towers where only wind once ruled. It gathered gold and called it progress. It built walls and called it safety. It trained armies and called it peace. Fields stretched beyond the horizon. Markets overflowed with grain and metal. Coin echoed louder than prayer. This was not a fragile realm. This was ambition made visible. King Aurelius stood at the center of it all, a ruler shaped by order, a man who believed that strength must always move forward. For kingdoms that stop growing begin to decay, and decay is feared more than war. From the palace balcony, he looked upon his creation. Stone, fire, gold, life. Albionar had risen, and it believed it would rise forever. Wars do not begin on battlefields. They begin in quiet rooms, over wooden tables, with dirty maps, and voices that were never meant to be heard. The king was not asked. because truth was not invited to the table. Gold moves quietly, from hand to hand, in plain sight. Loyalty was not demanded, it was purchased. They did not ask why. They only counted. Orders were whispered. Not in the king's name. The gates opened quietly, so no one would ask why. By the time the hooves thundered, the choice had already been made. Rumors travel faster than truth. The city felt it before it understood it. When fear rises, people look for power, while the city watched the palace. The mountains were already waiting. Long ago, before banners were raised, before gold was counted, there was a place untouched by hunger for power. A land shaped by stone and guarded by memory. This was Khardoum. Here, strength was not shouted, it was lived. Orcs did not gather to conquer, they gathered to endure. Meals were shared, fire was shared, silence was shared. Children learned the weight of tools before the weight of weapons. Elders watched, not with fear, but with pride. They did not build to impress the world. They built to protect their own. Every strike of the hammer carried meaning. Nothing here was built for conquest. Nothing here was forged for war. This was not a tribe of monsters. It was a people born of stone and fire, who only wished to be left in peace. In Khardoum, strength is not measured by how loud you roar. It is measured by how many listen when you speak. Morhai does not lead a single clan. He stands above them. Hunters follow him. Warriors fear him. Elders test him. He walks between clans like a blade between ribs. Silent, precise. When the forests are hunted, he decides where. When blood is needed, he decides how much. No banner belongs to him, and yet every banner moves when he moves. Some call him ruthless, others call him necessary. But all clans of Khardoum know this truth. When Morhai enters the hunt, the game is no longer about survival. It becomes about power. Gorath was not born to lead. He was born to remember. While others learned the weight of weapons, Gorath learned the weight of silence, of stone, of promises made before blood was spilled. To the children, he did not speak of war. He spoke of balance. He showed them the stone not as a symbol of power, but as a reminder. Stone does not move unless the world around it breaks. Stone does not lie. Stone remembers. The covenant was simple. Mountains belong to the orcs. Plains belong to the humans. Between them, silence. Not peace born of love, but peace born of restraint. Gorath taught them this. Strength is not what you take, but what you choose not to destroy. And as long as the stone remained untouched, the world held its breath, waiting. She walked into the forest as a stranger, not knowing if she would leave alive, not knowing who hunted her and who would protect her. In the mountains of Khardum, strength was law, and mercy was weakness. He walked beside her, not as a conqueror, not as an enemy, but as something far more dangerous, a protector. The tribe did not see a woman. They saw a threat, a spark that could burn the mountain. That night, the war did not sleep, but neither did destiny. In a world built on stone and blood, something fragile was born. Not from power, not from fear, but from choice. Morhay did not come in rage. He came with authority. The leader of all clans. The weight of many fires behind him. Gorath did not answer with fury. He answered with stillness. Two powers stood in one room. Not enemies, not allies. Just strength, measured in silence. For the first time, they did not stand beside each other. They stood opposed. And when the door was slammed into the night, nothing in that cabin was the same again. In the mountains of Khardoum, life did not rush. It endured. It breathed. It waited. And in that waiting, she remained. She was no longer a stranger. Not fully accepted, but no longer alone. In a land carved from stone and iron, she found warmth. And in the arms of the keeper of the oath, she found peace. Some watched her with silence, some with doubt. The clans did not forget what she was, but neither did they forget whose hand she held. She carried more than a child. She carried a future none of them yet understood. And when the child came, the mountains listened. Blood of two worlds, flesh of war and peace. He did not cry in fear. He breathed like he belonged. Seasons turned. Snow fell. Snow melted. Time does not ask permission. It simply moves. And the child grew, not as a symbol, not as a warning, but as a son. The clans saw him run, heard him laugh, and something older than hatred began to soften. Even Morhe watched, not with approval, but with thought.
What should I do? That?
For a time, there were no raised blades, no banners in the wind, only firelight, only breath, only a family beneath a silent sky. For a time, they were allowed to be happy. In Albionar, peace was never silence. It was preparation. While mountains slept, Severick did not. To him, the borders were not sacred. They were unfinished maps. No banners, no warnings, only torches, and men who believed fire speaks louder than treaties. They crossed the silence first, then the trees, and then the line that was never meant to be crossed. It was not a war, it was a message. Fire, smoke, first blood. Panic rose like a beast. Mothers screamed, warriors fell, and something ancient broke that night. Not stone, trust. From the hill, she saw the end of a world she had just begun to love. And she understood. If she stayed, her child would burn with it. She did not run as a traitor. She ran as a mother, carrying the last fragile thread that could still bind two kingdoms. Albiona welcomed her back, not as a stranger, but as blood. In the cold hall of stone, the old king did not look surprised. He looked tired. From that moment on, the war could no longer be stopped. But the true tragedy was never the war itself. It was that no one remembered why it had begun. Men believed they were defending order. Orcs were told that peace had been betrayed, and the truth lay buried beneath stone and blood. That night, Cale did not only lose a father, he lost the right to remain only a warrior. Because when truth is hidden, the sword no longer brings justice. It brings chaos. The question was never who would win the war. The question was, who would dare to speak the truth before the world burned completely? The first battle was not fought for land. It was fought for fear. And fear had only just begun.